Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to a new video. So we're going to react to Jordan Peterson's Does Israel Have the Right to Exist? Where he also, I guess, interviews a war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu. And yeah, basically, we're not going to watch the whole entire 1 hour and 28 minutes and 10 seconds. Good buddy boy Squid here has decided there are 3 important parts that need responding. And funny enough, he's going to use the Torah against Netanyahu. So it's going to be pretty interesting. And yeah, so let me... anything before we begin, guys?
Yeah, as I was mentioning earlier, I'm really curious what he uses to justify, because a lot of the Israeli people use the Torah and misquote the Torah, take them out of context to justify what they do to the Palestinian people in the Promised Land and etc. So we'll use the... we'll see where it goes.
All right. So I prepared a little something for this. So if you could hear this, it's popcorn. So I'm gonna eat some popcorn while I was watching this. It's gonna be interesting. So it's like watching a movie. Anyway, so let me just right. So the first part is according to Squid, we should watch from 4 minutes and 11 seconds. So
Actually, go a little bit. Go like before the Moses and the first letters, settlers.
Like
Little,
here.
yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
It's perfect.
Bio, and then we'll go on to the interview. Benjamin Netanyahu, as I said, was recently re-elected as Prime Minister of Israel, having previously served in the office from 1996 to 1999 and 2009 to 2021. From 1967 to 1972, he served as a soldier and commander in Sayeret Matkal, an elite special forces unit of the Israel Defense Forces.
Yeah, war criminal.
A graduate of MIT, he served as Israel's ambassador to the UN from 84 to 88.
Nice way of saying war
Before
criminal.
being elected to the Israeli parliament as a member of the Likud party in 1988. He has published 5 previous books on terrorism and Israel's quest for peace and security.
Yeah.
He lives in Jerusalem with his wife Sarah. In his newest book, Bibi, My Story,
BB, you love me?
the elected prime minister tells the story of his family, his people, his path to leadership, and his unceasing commitment to defending his country and securing its future. Hello, Prime Minister Netanyahu. Thank you very much for
Oh my
agreeing
god.
to talk to me tonight.
I'm sorry. I've got to pull a little bit attention there. Look at the way he's wearing those freaking poor pods on his ears. God damn.
I've been reading your book, your new book, Bibi, My Story, and
BB, you love me.
it weaves an interesting personal tale, familial tale, and political cultural tale all together. And there is one particular element of it I wanted to begin discussing with you that's, I think, of broad interest. One of the things I realized when I was reading was just how ignorant I am in some fundamental sense about the history of the development of
Oh, yeah.
You're
the
ignorant
state
in
of
general.
Israel.
You're
And
ignorant in general.
I know that there's tremendous constant noise about issues as fundamental as Israel's right to exist, even.
Right to
And you
exist.
start by talking about, in your book, you embark on explaining that, at least in some part, by talking about Herzl and his terror that anti-Semitism, that the rise of anti-Semitism in Europe was going to cause a catastrophe, which was obviously a justified terror.
So far, wait, whoa, hold on. What did you just say there?
That the rise of anti-Semitism in Europe was going to cause a catastrophe, which was obviously a justified terror. Would you be kind enough to walk me and my viewers and listeners through your rationale for the moral justification for Israel, the political justification
let's
as
hear
well?
this.
I'm going to do what I can.
Oh my god, he's not even letting him speak. He's just keep on just talking and talking and talking. But like honestly, it's justified.
It's usually his style, so yeah, we'll see.
So
But of course, anti-Semitism card's already being pulled out.
yeah, you could tell. He only just read one side. He didn't even bother looking at the other side. Like you could tell, like this was already like loaded.
That's why somebody in the comment
My
section.
limited ability, let's say, to push back. I've heard the arguments of often young people who are more prone to give credence and sympathy, say, to the Palestinian viewpoint. And
Oh,
I'd like to rectify
just
my
the young
words and
people,
maybe
right?
help my
Young people,
viewers
not
and
the old
listeners
people.
do the same thing. So would it be useful to start with Herzl?
Well, I
Wait,
There he is.
wait,
start,
Whoa.
Hold on. he's saying that, oh, the young people, sympathy for the Palestinians. Then why don't you get a Palestinian spokesman in here? Why, or even better, somebody in the comment section mentioned, why don't you bring Norman Finkelstein? You know, he's a Jew and he's pro-Palestinian, and his ancestors were like victims of the Holocaust. Why don't you bring him? Why'd you bring this guy? I don't understand.
If
you want to hear the
you could ignore
Palestinian
him, then Uture Carta, anyone else, but
Nico
no.
Khalid. Nope.
Nah, but Benjamin Netanyahu, he brings this guy out of all the freaking people. God, look at him.
Speak on the behalf of the Palestinians. Nice.
Look at this war criminal. Looks like freaking a hobbit over here. Jeez Louise, that's two hobbits. Alright, I'm sorry.
Herzl was
I'm sorry,
our
but
modern
it's-
Moses.
Oh,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
it's funny to hear Jordan Peterson asking, what's his name again? Netanyahu.
Yeah.
Basically, he's asking him like, how can you justify? Like, please tell me how you can justify, a colonization happening in the 21st century. Please, because we know that we can't justify it, right? So
No.
And he's asking that on the behalf of the Palestinian people. Like a spokesman for the Palestinian people is the Israeli prime minister. Come on.
As an Arab, we don't own this
Dumbest.
guy. We don't own him. Like he can just go and live out
course.
his life outside. Yeah.
Anyways, let's continue.
Help my viewers and listeners do the same thing. So, would it be useful to start with Herzl?
Well, I'd start. Herzl was what I call our modern Moses, but I'd actually start with the original Moses. The Jewish people have lived in the land of Israel, what is now the state of Israel, have lived here and have been attached to this place for about 3,500 years. 3.5 millennia.
False.
Now, for the first
All right. Yeah.
False. Yeah. So again, he's speaking as if the Jewish people weren't kicked out, punished by God. The Babylonian exile, they've been punished, they've been kicked out of this land. Why? Because of their wrongdoings, because of their sins. So yeah, it's false.
Yeah, funny.
Yes,
That's
they
how
came back, it's their holy land, but because of their sinning, and this is even mentioned of the Quran,
Yeah.
how they got cursed. Yeah.
for the stuff they
Yeah,
said, for the
they-
stuff they did.
yeah, and they basically their temples got destroyed because of it, and they had to leave and stuff,
Mm.
and so like wait, did he say they have been living there?
Yep.
For,
He said they've been living there for 3,500 years. False.
That's false.
And it's funny, it's the
Unless-
first statement he made.
unless he's talking about the Muslim Dragon says the cute Jews, maybe, but
Maybe.
the Palestinian Jews, but yeah, otherwise no.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like they went to Babylon of all places. I mean, that's how they learned their magic. So yeah.
2 millennia roughly of that time, we were living in what is described in a text commonly known as the Bible. So the Bible describes how the Jewish people lived on this land, were attached to this land, fought off conquerors, sometimes were conquered, but stayed on their land. And that
just sometimes.
continued for a very long time until roughly the 6th, 7th century, actually.
Point of information, real
Is
quick.
he dumb? Is he stupid? Until the 7th century? Is he that deluded?
I mean, you're talking to war criminal.
It's not until the 7th. It's been ever since they tried to kill Christ, alayhi salam, in Jesus.
Yeah, astaghfirullah,
Right?
yeah. But like, like, I don't know. I even forgot. Like, even he made me forget what I was about to say again with this. But oh my god, they're just
Bro,
making. Remember, just
What
making
did Umar bin Khattab ask Sophronius? What was his name? Yeah. Sophronius was like, there's no Jews here. We killed all of them from Jerusalem. So who is he talking about? And
I
guess
know.
who brought back the Jewish population? It was Umar bin Khattab. Through the 80 families, 80 Jewish families.
Look, people like them, like people like him, for example, they'll never admit like the truth behind like anything that's going on. They're just gonna use their narrative that they've concocted just to persuade people into thinking, hey, you know, we're not really the bad guys. You know, we wrote all those books and they're supporting us. See, that's the thing, though. We look at both sides.
Very long time until roughly the 6th, 7th century, actually, after the birth of Christ. Okay.
Oh yeah, I remember. Like he's just using Christ and Bible just to appease to Jordan Peterson and the Christians. Normally, I can tell from here sitting right here in my freaking room, and him sitting in his like makeshift palace at whatever he is. I can tell that he doesn't actually believe in this stuff. He's just using it just to appease to his followers and the others.
Yeah. Abrahamic Accords justification. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I mean, like ما كان إبراهيم يهوديا ولا نصرانيا بل كان مسلما حنيفا. And yeah, that's the paraphrasing of the Quran. Yeah. All right. I guess YouTube is gonna. All right, YouTube is stuck. Hold on. What do you mean, like freaking audio renderer error? What the heck? I guess YouTube is onto us. I guess YouTube knows that we reacted to this. We're gonna respond negatively. Oh. I guess there actually is some audio error. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to restart my computer then. Hold on. I'll be right back. I gotta restart my computer. I'll be right back because I can't hear anyone saying anything. So I'll be right back. And we're back. Sorry about that. I guess YouTube is onto us, especially the Zionists and stuff, because I guess they knew that we were gonna record and respond back to Saint Yahoo over here. But yeah, now that I've restarted my computer and I've changed the browser this time to make sure that everything is a-okay. Let's just continue.
So the Bible describes how the Jewish people lived on this land, were attached to this land, fought off conquerors, sometimes were conquered, but stayed on their land. And that continued for a very long time until roughly the 6th, 7th century, actually, after the birth of Christ, okay? For roughly 2,000 years. We were conquered by the Romans, we were conquered by the Byzantines. They did a lot of bad things to us. But they didn't really exile us, contrary to what people think. Okay, the ones, the loss of our land
called the Babylonian exile.
When the Arab conquest took place in the 7th century, the Arabs burst out from Arabia, and they did something that no other conqueror, not the Romans, not the Byzantines, not the Greeks before them, not Alexander the Great, nobody did before. They actually started taking over the land of the Jewish farmer.
Yeah. Usual rhetoric lies.
No.
I know.
No. Okay, who saved were there any... Hold on. In the year, like, 637, were there any Jews in Jerusalem? No, they were wiped out by the Byzantines. They were completely wiped. Who brought them back, like I said? Umar ibn Khattab, radiallahu anhu. 80 Jewish families.
Let's actually give him the benefit of the doubt, and let's say that maybe he's actually saying that the Muslim did a good thing.
Let me quote, but before you do that, let me quote somebody. David Wasserstein. He was a Jewish historian professor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll quote it afterwards. I'll find it first, but you can continue.
All right. Okay.
They brought in military colonies that took over the land. And gradually, over the next 2 centuries, the Jews became a minority in our land. So under the Arab conquest that the Jews lost their homeland. The Arabs were the colonials. The Jews were the natives dispossessed. Well, that happens in history. The Jews were dispossessed. We were flung to the far corners of the earth.
What?
I take back what I said. Yeah, I was like, maybe he's going to say something good, that the Jews were... Yeah.
Don't expect anything good out of Saint Yahoo. I mean, it's in his name. But yeah.
Oh.
Let me quote to you
suffered
a historian.
Unimaginable suffering.
I'll do it after. Let me quote to you what David Wasserstein, Professor David Wasserstein, Jewish historian, professor as well. He said, Islam saved the Jew. This is an unpopular opinion, but in this 570 CE, when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was born, Jews and Judaism were on oblivion. Second coming of Islam saved them, providing them new context. I want to skip over, right? By the 4th century, Christianity had become dominant religion in the Roman Empire, right? Skip. Had Islam not come along, Jewry in the West would have declined to disappearance. Disappearance. and Jewry in the East would have become just another Oriental cult. The most important single work of Jewish cultural creativity in over 3,000 years, apart from the Bible itself, the Talmud, came into being in Babylonian, in Babylon.
Yeah.
Jewish life and the Christian life later simply blah blah. Had Islam not come along, the conflict with Persia would have been continued. The separation between Western Judaism, Christianity, and Babylonian Judaism, they would all be intensified. But this was all prevented by the rise of Islam. The Islamic conquest of the 7th century changed the world and did so with dramatic, wide-ranging, and permanent effect for the Jews. I'm going to stop there. Even he continues way more. But
yeah. And that's the thing, the Arabs and the Muslims, they saved the Jews. When they came with Umar ibn Khattab, and they obviously conquered Jerusalem and stuff, right? He brought back the Jews, and then also the same thing, later on during the Islamic Golden Age, it was literally also the Golden Age of the Judaism and stuff, right?
Yep.
So literally, and they loved to be surrounded by the Muslims, right? Because the Christians, they hated the Jews and they wanted to kill the Jews and stuff, right? And same thing, also when again during the Nazis times, with Hitler and stuff, who took care of them? Who? The Palestinians.
Exactly.
But then, obviously, the Arabs are the colonizers and stuff.
Yeah, like Mr. like freaking Ibn War criminals and Netanyahu over here is like, oh no, the Arabs are they're the colonizers, Habibi. Yeah, they're the colonizers.
This man is lying through his teeth. This liar, man.
I mean,
and we haven't even gotten into the 15th century. He mentioned after Islam. I quoted him what happened after Islam, according to a Jewish historian himself. What a liar.
Well, that happens in history. The Jews were dispossessed. We were flung to the far corners of the earth, suffered unimaginable suffering because we had no homeland. But we didn't disappear, and we never gave up the dream of coming back to our ancestral homeland. So generation after generation, the Jews could be in Warsaw, they could be in Yemen, they could be in China. And they said, next year in Jerusalem, we'll come back, next year in Jerusalem. Well, that was made possible because the Arabs who had conquered the land basically left it barren. They never made it their own. It was a barren land. It really it was an empty land.
He does realize he's insulting his land, right? Just like freaking in that one interview with Brother Hijab with the other brother. It's like they viewed Palestine as an empty, barren land, the same way they viewed the other Levantine areas as well. Oh, it's a bunch of barren land. There's totally no buildings and people and forests and rivers and khair. No. It's all barren land. It's all empty. There's absolutely nothing in there whatsoever. Like, does he not realize? Like, does he actually not realize what he's saying? Does he not hear himself? Like that's the thing. Is like,
by the way,
yeah.
Yeah, what do you want to say?
No, I've said what I said. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to say that. Actually, you remember how he was saying that? Yeah, the Arabs are the colonizers and stuff, right? But he doesn't mention the fact that the Canaanites they lived there before the Israelites came.
Yeah.
If we look, into that perspective, then we would say that the Israelites are the colonizers. Obviously we know that Allah gave that land to them. But if we use, for example, the atheist, we just use their how can I say that? If we look at it as an atheist and stuff,
as a secular,
like we would say. We would say that actually, they would be the colonizers because the Canaanites, they were there before the Israelites, and the Palestinians, they claim to be Canaanites, just like the Jews of today claim to be Israelites, right? And so, and they, I mean, one of the ways that the Jews prove that is through DNA.
DNA.
Where they take DNA tests and stuff. Yeah, and you can see that actually. The Palestinians, they have like Levantine, DNA, obviously ancestry, right? So, I mean, this could actually prove that actually they're like Canaanites, because Canaanites used to live there. So, I mean, then if we use that, like I said, that way of thinking, then obviously the colonizers are the Israelites. So, just makes no sense.
Yeah, but I mean, again, we have to trust in the words of Bin War Crime Satan Yahoo over here, so we just have to continue listening.
And in the 19th century, the idea of coming back next year in Jerusalem became a reality. By the way, in part because of Christian Zionist support for the idea of the Great Return. The Jews came back in the 19th century to the land of Israel.
Yeah.
The result of this return was that we started building farms, factories, places of employment. Arabs from nearby countries started immigrating, and they call themselves Palestinians. They reconstructed history and said, we've been here for centuries. No, they haven't. They weren't there at all. And they didn't have a national culture.
They have.
We came back, made it our land, and we said, okay, now we'll look
Yeah.
This is actually laughable. Like, this is really stupid. Literally, like they have Levantine ancestry.
Yeah.
Literally. So they're even more Levantine than how would you call that? Basically, you know what I mean, right? Arab or whatever. So yeah, this just doesn't make sense. Like, for example, if you would see like the ancestry of a Saudi person, someone from Saudi,
Yeah.
they would mostly just from that place, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
And or even like just 100% from there, right? And I've seen a lot of people like that. But if you look at the Palestinians and stuff in general, they're mostly Levantines and stuff, so they do come from there. So saying that they're just Arabs who came like later on and stuff, it's just a big lie, big fat lie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share a picture.
Okay.
This is the Jews arriving to where? To Israel? No, to Palestine.
Yeah, this is talking about this.
Who was here first?
Exactly. And also, they had this thing saying, please don't do to us what the Nazis did to us, something like that. So they were begging. So I mean, yeah.
It's like the other day.
Yeah, I was thinking about that actually. Yeah.
It was like the other day, like on Reddit. I know Reddit, like whatever, but yeah, like there's a pro-Palestinian like subreddit and stuff, and there's this one dude who like he says that I fail reading comprehension, but this guy actually likes to change topics and to tap dance about the issues right here. I was talking about how like at some point you think that these people would not want to do what has been done to them, but I guess not. I guess they prefer to like take inspiration from the very people that they've been tortured under, which is pretty nasty. And they say, well, no, there are studies that show otherwise. Dude, no, it's called desperation and greed. That's what it's called.
We decided to establish a state in 1948. That's 75 years ago. And we said everybody can live here. The Arabs said there can't be a Jewish state. You have no right to be here. It's our land. It's not your land. It's been our land for 3,500 years.
Well, okay, it's been our land for Nam.
Knocked them out, dispossessed them, and they never gave up the claim. They said it's our claim, and you left this barren dump, okay? And the families, the progeny of the people you kicked out, came back, rebuilt the house. You cannot come back and tell them you don't belong here. We're going to kick you out, especially since you're latecomers who've come to live in part of the house, which is what.
Listen, Netanyahu. It's been your land. Okay, let's say 3,000 years, whatever. Right? It's been your land since Moses, since the time of Moses. Since I'm even gonna say since Joshua, right, when he arrived in the land, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it has been the land of the Palestinians since even the time before Yaqub So Jacob, even before Jacob, you know. So even before the children of Israel was a thing, basically.
And the
So-
land of Philistine in the Bible was mentioned before anything else.
Mm.
Any like land of Israel, land, the promised land. The land of the Philistines was mentioned way before that. Mentioned
Yeah,
before
exactly.
Yaqub alayhi salam was even born.
So,
Israel.
Yeah. He was even he was
So
even
what is he
in the
talking
land of,
about?
the thing is,
he was in the land of Canaan, yeah.
in the case that none of you guys, like I'm not talking to you guys, you guys would notice, but to the audience at home, the reason why he's fixated on saying Arabs and Arabs and Arabs, although him saying Arabs as a generalization is already false, him saying Arabs is because he wants to wipe out the name Palestine off the map. So he keeps saying Arabs, 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 and not Palestinians,
Yeah.
Palestinians, Palestinians. So yeah, so he wants to like group us all together into this. Which, I mean, if you want to, yeah, sure, group us all together because they're our brothers and sisters, and we're all like related to one another. And the thing is, gremlins like you need to know their place in this vast cosmos. But yeah,
The so-called Palestinians are. Okay? We say to them, you can live here, we can live here, but it's our land, it's our state.
That's
And the
how it-
reason this conflict continues is because the Palestinians, who are
now he says
represent
Palestinians.
the colonial powers, the Arab conquest of
Yeah,
the
Arab
Middle East and
conquest.
beyond.
He's
They're
blaming
saying,
Islam's rights.
You have no right for a Jewish state. Well, we do. If any people has any right to a state, if any people never gave up their dreams of returning to their ancestral home, if any people rebuilt their home from nothing, from barren, wasted land, it's the Jewish people.
Wow.
To tell them, you have suffered more than anyone else. You have never lost your dream of coming back and rebuilding your national life in your ancestral homeland. You have no right to be there.
dude, I feel like making ghusl after watching this video. Honestly, I mean tomorrow's Friday,
You know
but still.
you know what's crazy? You know what's
Yeah.
crazy is, you can say the same thing about the First Nations and, the enslavement of the African Americans. Use the same logic and go like, oh, that means they can come and then just like persecute all of us on the land that we're living in. It's such a bad argument, especially from a very neutral perspective who doesn't give a damn about what the Bible says.
Even though he uses it for his own. I mean, look again. This is a war criminal. What does he have to do with like doing like proper argumentation using facts and logic and reasoning? He's a war criminal. That's his job. That's what he knows. That's the best thing he can do. So yeah.
But the Arabs who are trying to destroy you, they have that right. That is a complete perversion of history and also a complete perversion of justice.
You're the
The
pervert.
Jews belong to this land. This land belongs to the Jews. The Palestinians are free to live here next to us, among us, but they're not free to demand the dissolution of the Jewish state.
Yeah. That's why you go into their homes, destroy the buildings, kill people, torture kids. That they're totally free. They're 100% free to do as they please. Yeah, absolutely.
So
That
let
is
me
not
just
justice.
expose 1 second. Let me just expose his lies again. He's talking as if, oh, you're free to live with us, but you have to give us power. That's it. It's just that, But
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you respect us, then we let you live. But look, does he not know what happened in 1948, the Nakba?
Oh,
Let me read out to you. The Nakba, also known as the Palestinian catastrophe, was the destruction of the Palestinian society and homeland in 1948, and the permanent displacement of majority of the Palestinian Arabs. How many? 700,000. In 1948, more than 700,000 Palestinian Arabs, about half of Palestinian Arabs' population, were expelled and fled from their homes.
no.
Is that what you call living in peace?
No,
Exactly.
Yeah,
What a
no.
bastard.
Yeah, okay, damn. But no, Habibi, no. You're the pervert. You're changing history. No, Habibi. You're Hamas. Yo, I should call FBI on you. Okay,
Oh, the
I'll
Hamas. I can't wait for the Hamas argument.
Among us, but they're not free to
I
demand
swear,
the
like,
dissolution of
they're
the
so,
Jewish state. That is not justice. That is injustice. That's
Oh, he said
the
it.
shortest lecture I can give you about Jewish history.
In today's world,
And
we
he's
sometimes
all
lose
that
sight
on.
of the Judeo-Christian
Okay, well, what is this?
today.
What was that face?
What was that?
What was that face?
It's like you're full of crap, but I'll take it.
Yeah, that was very good.
Oh my
That was
God.
very good there. What the frick was that face?
So why do you think the claim that the Palestinians were somehow there in Israel first and have been displaced in a colonial occupation, let's say, by the Jews? Why do you think that idea has gained such cachet, not least in the West?
Because of
How is this guy married? Like, how does he have kids? Like, look at his face. Like, who would marry this freaking creature? I don't know. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, sir. But anyway, just continue.
ignorance. I mean, what do you mean they were here first? Well, you're familiar with the
I
story
showed a
of Jesus,
picture.
right? Jesus was a Jewish rabbi living
I showed a picture.
2,000 years ago. He was a rabbi from the Galilee. Okay, he came to Jerusalem. He turned the money tables of the tables of the money changers on the Temple Mount. Where did that happen? Did it happen in Tibet? It happened here. Jerusalem was our capital. King David made it our capital 3,000 years ago. So the Jews are here to try to say that they weren't here and that the Palestinians were here thousands of years ago is ridiculous. Anybody who can, you can actually Google this and find out how absurd this thing is. So
Irony!
as far as reinventing ancient history, that is unpardonable, because anybody can find out and understand that the Jews were here for thousands of years, the Palestinians weren't here. As far as modern times are concerned, what the Palestinians have said is, and I write this in my book, and I show it because it's so comical. What they say is, we were here, Palestine was a verdant land in the 19th century, teeming with the Palestinians, until the Jews came in, took it over and threw it out. Okay.
Sources? Trust me, bro.
Well, that's what Arafat effectively said in his infamous speech in the United Nations, blaming Zionism, equating Zionism with racism. Well, there's only one problem with that. He said that the Jewish invasion of this verdant Palestinian homeland happened in 1881, okay? The problem with that is that 12 years before, a famous visitor, among hundreds of visitors, named Mark Twain, visited the Holy Land. And he describes a totally different picture. He describes Palestine, I'm quoting him, is a vast wasteland. He said, only imagination can grace this barren land with the pomp of circumstance and life.
Yeah, so we take a blind guy's interpretation of like a country and just roll with it.
Yes, and you know who else? You know who else said that?
Who?
Umar ibn Khattab, when he came and saw that it's just like, it's a complete plundered city.
Yeah, but he's not gonna mention him. And,
No.
and it's best he
No,
doesn't.
sorry. It wasn't Umar ibn Khattab who said it, but it was the professor who was explaining the history of it.
Yeah, and I honestly, he would never mention Umar Khattab radhiyallahu anhu, and I think it's best he doesn't mention it because his mouth has no right to utter such a legendary Chad companion's name. So yeah,
It's just, he said, we traveled for a whole day. We didn't see, in the Galilee, we didn't see a human being, one single human being. He said,
One
Jerusalem
single
sits
human
in sackcloth and ashes. And as he was saying that, it's the Jewish return that began building the land. Well, perhaps one could argue, it's obvious that Mark Twain was not in the service of the Jewish state because it didn't exist. He wasn't in the service of the Jewish lobby because there wasn't any Jewish lobby. He was just reporting what was there. Could there possibly have been a tremendous influx of Palestinians between 1869 and 1881, the year that Arafat says the Jewish invasion began and destroyed the Palestinian paradise? Well, alas, no, because in the year 1881, another famous visitor visits Israel, and he visits this land, and he writes also his memoirs, okay? His name was Arthur Penrhyn Stanley. He was a very famous courtier of Queen Victoria's court, okay? And he came here on a special visit. And he says, I look south and I look north. He says, I'm in Judea. And I see nothing. He says, a barren expanse. And they both express, both Twain and Arthur Penrhyn Stanley say the same thing. What
does this have to do with anything?
When will the Jews come back and bring this land to life?
no, he's arguing that because it's empty, the Jews have the right to come back and just rebuild from the emptiness. And he's saying
Yeah.
like, oh, because it's empty, and he's bringing like, these two guys out of like a billion. He's like, these two blind people. It's like, oh, there's no one here, so it just proves that Palestinians weren't there at all. It's like,
Yeah, so let's come into this land and expel 700,000 Palestinians. Because that's just nothing, right? 700,000. A land, there's nothing on the land except for 700,000 Palestinians.
no,
And that's just half of them.
No. I guess these guys saw them as like ghosts or
Crazies.
something. I guess the Palestinians had like a cloaking mechanism that they couldn't appear in front of them, I guess, or something. Yeah, because that's the thing. That's the thing. You know, something is loaded and has an ill will when two blind people, are gonna go and say that 700,000 people don't exist in a land that is apparently, according to them, very barren. You know, something was being planned behind closed doors, that they wanted like all this extremist stuff. And that's the thing. It's like, what do you mean? Here's the thing. What do you mean you have a right to a home in your own Bible, quote unquote? Basically, wasn't there a rule that states that you can only have a home until your Messiah appears? Like, so your Messiah hasn't appeared, and yet you're hastening it. Like, there's zero patience, zero sabr at all with regards to these matters. It seriously shows how absolutely desperate and absolutely like greedy these gremlins are. And yeah, they're like, as much as they're our cousins and stuff, and I'm pretty ashamed to call them my cousins, but at the same time, it's I'm sorry you two for saying this, but it's plain old retardation.
And the answer is right then. We came back, brought it back to life. There were Arabs living here, but it was, as I said,
He admits it. He admits
but
it.
Arabs began to immigrate naturally because we created a rise in the standard of living that attracted Arabs from neighboring states. Those Arabs are now
Pause.
the descendants.
Yeah, pause.
So one thing I wanted to say earlier is, are you telling me that after World War II, when the Jews got completely wrecked, two guys came out of nowhere in the land of Palestine and went like, I can't wait for the Jews to come back and revive this land, right after being completely smoked and burned?
Like I said, it's been
How does that
planned.
make any sense?
No, because they're applying for this. Like, they wanted this to happen for their own agendas and for
So
their own
dumb.
ideals.
It makes absolutely no sense.
I know, it doesn't make any sense, but at the same time, it's these people, they're doing this because they want to follow their own narratives and their own ideals. So they've been planning this for like some time. It's like, this quote unquote barren wasteland, we can use it for our own benefit, and we can use it for our own, devastation and depravity. But yeah,
And he's saying that the Arabs naturally immigrated. That's not what Nakba was.
yeah. Oh no.
Nakba was not natural immigration. No, it was expulsion and persecution.
It was Zionists being a bunch of Nazis, basically. Yeah.
Yes.
Of those Arabs who migrated as a result of the Jewish return, many of them
Jews?
now are considered Palestinians. So what I'm saying, and I'm saying this to you, Jordan, and to your audience, there has been a complete fabrication of history. It's the biggest lie of the big lies that have permeated the 20th century and the 21st century, is to say that the Arabs were here before, that is, the Palestinians were here before the Jews, when we were here for thousands of years, that we are the colonials, when in fact it was the Arabs who were the colonials who dispossessed the original natives, and that is the Jews, that we...
This guy, like, no self-awareness, right? None. He thinks his audience are just a bunch of stupid idiots. That's what he thinks.
Some of them are. Don't get me wrong.
No, like some of them are bootlickers. Okay, sure, but no, the rest. He thinks like the rest of them are like a bunch of stupid idiots who are just gonna buy into what he says and not do the thing that he keeps telling them to do, which is to Google this information and clarify, which we have. We all have. And the reality is, it's opposite as to what this guy's claiming.
We came back to this land that was laid barren by the Arab conquest, brought it back to life, and allowed Arab immigration, what we call now Palestinian immigration, to come back in. And now they say to us, in unimaginable chutzpah, they say, you don't belong here. They recreate ancient history, they recreate modern history, and this is a lie.
Who said you don't belong here, though?
It's ridiculous.
When do we say no, get out of here?
No. That's just okay. Ignore that argument. I like how he's like, mention you chutzpah. It's like, look, listen.
Chutzpah.
Yeah, chutzpah. I don't know. The thing is, like, no. Like, listen, you're welcome and everything and stuff. Okay, sure. But then to like enforce your own race upon us, like that's just one thing, right? But honestly, man, this guy who keeps fabricating history is claiming that we are the ones who fabricate history, and yet, here we are today.
Ridiculous. It's absurd.
Well, some of it also seems to be, I would say, technically speaking, something like a time frame problem, right? I mean, you said the Arabs came in the 7th century, and that's a long time ago. And so from the 7th century to now, you might think of that as being a time frame long enough to allow for a valid claim of sovereignty ownership. But the Jews' rejoinder is, well, we have a much older claim than that, one that spans 3,500 years. And the problem I have with that conceptually, and then I'll get to some other issues that are relevant to this, is
What's this guy's major again? Freaking
Psychology.
What does a psychologist have to do with history? Like, and he's our spokesperson. He's the spokesperson for Palestine. Shut up.
I mean, he did make a good point, which is like the time frame, the distance to the time frame, it does invalidate the ownership. But then he proceeds to go like, oh, but you did claim that you guys had the land for 35,000 years. No, that doesn't make sense.
But then
that contradicts what he said at the beginning.
Here's the thing, like he thinks like everyone, like these guys think that their answer is stupid, and that it's God, I keep forgetting like the arguments I'm gonna make. Like they're just gonna rehash the stuff they're saying, that they're just gonna force feed it upon people. Like it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work, honestly. And notice, by the way, he's gonna repeat the same arguments over and over again ad nauseum, because that's the kind of thing. Like if you keep repeating the argument as much as possible ad nauseum, people will inherently and indirectly buy into the information that's being repeated and rehashed. So keep that in mind, folks. And it's a tactic like that has been been used before by idiots. So yeah,
is that it's not exactly obvious what time frame of analysis should.
Oh yeah, I remembered. Yeah. So basically, because people back in the day weren't really paying attention in history class, they take the opportunity to like make stuff up, and then now, when people have paid attention, they're like, oh no, like our history is correct, their history is false. Shut up.
Should be primary.
He wants to talk. He wants to talk.
I do,
Yeah,
and I'll answer your question. It's a valid question. If the Arabs, having conquered the land in the 7th century and dispossessed the Jews over the next 2 centuries, the Jewish farmers kicked them out and so on. If they established a viable state, a viable national identity there and so on, you're right. These things happen in history. You're supplanted by another people, fine. But that's not what happened. The Arab conquerors themselves were replaced by other. First of all, they did nothing with the land. It's just barren. They actually built one town. It's called Ramle. That's it. Hundreds and hundreds of Jewish biblical sites and hundreds and thousands of new sites that we built. The Arabs built one place, one town called Ramle. That's it. So they did nothing with the land. Then they were replaced by other conquerors. Other conquerors came in.
Hey, so what did the 80 Jewish families
the
do?
Ottomans, ultimately the British.
Told you, no self-awareness.
In other words, they took over the land, lost the land, and did nothing with the land. So if they had done
this guy, he needs to like look back as to everything he said. Like this is the thing.
That's why the 80. Yeah, sorry.
That's the thing. Like when they like make stuff up as they go, as they move along, and just don't double check the stuff they say, and they make up this whole amount, like these massive amounts of contradictions and non sequiturs. Like they're just again desperate. They want what they cannot have, and they won't have. Until the jail comes, but then he'll be slain, so technically they still don't have it. But yeah.
Done what you say, if they had created, if that house that we were expelled from was taken over by another people, another family, they built a family there, they had children, grandchildren, they extended the porch, they built a parking garage and so on, it's gone. What can you do? You still have the ability to demand reclamations, compensation and so on. But tough luck. That happens in history. But that's
we've been demanding.
Tough luck.
Tough luck, man. Yeah, tough luck.
Let's move on.
Yeah, it's just the
okay. After this, we'll skip all the way to the end of the Abrahamic courts because we're not gonna.
We can't watch all of this, but yeah,
that's not what happened. Once the Jews were conquered by the Arabs did nothing with it, lost the land to others. Now we come back and bring it back to life. 13 centuries later and perform this miracle, and they fabricate a history where we were there all the time.
It's like, uh-huh.
It was a verdant homeland. It was built up. It was nothing of the kind. It was desert. It was nothing. Now, it's not merely Mark Twain and Arthur Penryn Stanley who say that.
Wait, who took
Hundreds
over?
and
Who
hundreds
took over
and
Jerusalem
hundreds.
after? Because in the even like during the Spanish Inquisition, the Jews where did the Muslims allow the Jews to live in? Like, what is he talking about? I don't understand. Who do we lose it to? And how come so many learned rabbis and observers of the Torah emerged from Jerusalem, which was at that time conquered by the Muslims, who saved them from being slaughtered by the Christians, the Roman Catholic Church?
Ungrateful
What is he
basalts.
talking about?
Yeah, ungrateful basalts, honestly.
He doesn't know his own scripture. He doesn't know history. He doesn't know anything. Like,
No.
why is he here? I don't understand.
He just
lying.
look. These people all they want is just control. They want to control. They want the way they're gonna do it is just to use violence and to make up history and to make up some stuff, force feed onto people, kill if necessary. Well, I mean it's unnecessary, but they'll still do it anyway. And as long as they achieve their goals, that's the kind of evil they're gonna stoop to. It goes against the Ten Commandments if he even believes in them and follows them.
Exactly.
And it goes against like the idea that their Messiah has to appear first for them to have a home. And honestly, yeah, like soon, Midnillah, soon, like they'll lose everything, and then it'll come back to them, and then they'll be the ones who have this immense regret. But yeah.
Of travelogues over the centuries, of famous French poets, of Swiss travelers, of German theologians, everybody, of poets, writers, travelers, who describe exactly the same thing. There was nothing there. There was no Palestinian state. There were no Palestinians. They didn't even, the Arabs even didn't call themselves that. They were
because we had
calling
a
themselves
caliphate.
parts of southern
Idiots.
Syria, whatever. There was no national consciousness. There was nothing to form the consciousness about. In the 20th century, the Arab world and the Palestinians and their supporters in the West, among the intellectual elites, basically erased history and recreated a fake history.
Yeah,
A
he
fake
says the
history
fakers.
that deracinates the Jewish roots that are unparalleled. There is no other story in the history of nations where people fought for so long for their land, for 2,000 years, were dispossessed from it, came back to it, did not kick out an existing population with a national consciousness, rebuilt the land, and now are
Nakba.
being told you have no connections to it. You were, you're the colonials. No, we're not.
Yes, you are.
We're not just to.
I think this is a good time to stop, because he's just rinsing and
a
repeating.
fine point.
Like I said, yeah, because he wants to force feed like this narrative. But yeah, man.
Same thing. So the Abrahamic Corp, it's at the end, all the way at the end.
The Balfour Declaration, Hitlerism, bro. Okay.
Right. He blamed the Muslims for what Hitler did. I remember. It's pathetic.
Yeah. Honestly. And we don't blame
I think
Hitler
that's
either.
the Abraham. Yeah, of course we don't.
Yeah, so...
He's claiming we did.
History
It's
of
all the Arabs' fault.
Okay, we go.
from one another, and I've had to deal with quite a few of them, and it's an interesting story. But I think beyond that, I think it's to live a life of purpose.
Okay, well, you had to be guided by and have faith in.
I like that. Look at this.
Okay, well, you.
Okay, yes. Okay, so one pizza extra large.
It's just
had to
like
be
the hand
guided
gestures.
by
Yeah.
and have faith in principles that were outside of short-term advantage in order to do what you did, and that's the story that you lay out in your
One
book,
slice
and
of
that
pizza.
seems to be in accordance with the facts on the ground. When you, in your political experience, no doubt you've dealt with political leaders who have a vision and who are
Vision?
guided by principles.
Vision.
And you have dealt with political leaders who don't. And one of the questions I have for you as a consequence is, what is it that you think that the leaders who who aren't guided by principle and vision, what is it that they're pursuing? And in your experience, is that more common on
This thing's non-uniformity is killing me.
the political front than guidance by vision and principle?
In general, yes, it's more common. And that's why people don't have high respect for politicians. They speak of principle, but they're usually interested in personal power. For me, power by
Irony.
itself is meaningless. Power for what? I mean, I can make a better living outside.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Well, that's exactly what I'm asking. I don't really understand. I don't understand the drive for power, so to speak, or authority or influence outside of the realm of guiding principle, because it like if it's just a shallow hedonism, let's say, or a desire for acclaim, I would think also there's easier and more productive ways of pursuing that.
I certainly agree with you. You're right, because Israeli politics isn't exactly a walk in the woods. I mean, or a rose garden. It's very cruel.
So far, what does this have to do with the Abraham Accords?
My family,
Yeah,
and
that's
myself
what I'm
were
trying to-
subjected to incredible calumny and slanders and lies. It's horrible. So unless you have an overriding purpose, there's no point. To come back twice from political death, to have been eulogized, usually unfavorably, you don't come back for the perks of power, which are absurd anyway. I mean, anybody who can earn a living will do better than what heads of state get in the Western world. They're forced into it's nothing. I mean, believe me, you get better accommodations when you're in the private sector. So that's not the reason. For me,
Accommodations to the private sector. Yeah, get a contract, and as soon as the contract ends, you're out of here. Shut up.
as I said, I've lived a life of purpose to revamp, to assure Israel's permanence. My father and my grandfather worked very hard, labored very hard to assure that the Jewish people would come back, would have a state. And I worked very hard to assure that they'd keep a state and that state would become a power among the nations. By the way, the University of Pennsylvania has this annual poll in which they asked 17,000 opinion leaders in, I think, 20 countries to rank the powers of the world. And in the decade that I led Israel, in between 2010 to 2020, Israel was consistently ranked as the 8th power in the world. Now, you got to understand, we're 1/10 of 1% of the population of the world. You know, we're going to reach 10 million soon. Ahead of us,
Yeah, we could thank America for the funding, the UN for the silence. I mean, yeah, like that's what we could thank for such a rise.
are countries with billion people, hundreds of millions of people, tens of millions of people, and below is the same. But we stand out, this tiny, tiny country. And the reason that's
We're
so
tiny,
is
actually.
because I put this vision that is my purpose in life into being, but it's the jury is still out. It's not that you can sit on your laurels. I can't say, oh, well, and I'm coming back in. I've done it. I wrote my biography or my autobiography. That's it. No, you have to constantly work at it. You have to constantly increase the economic power.
What does this have to do with the Abraham Accords?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just, if you want to stop it here, we can.
Yeah, let's stop here. I don't know what the hell that has to do with the
Yeah, this
Abraham
is-
Accords, man. Yeah, this is just, retarded. Anyway. All right, then. Thoughts?
Yeah, so twisting of scripture, twisting of history, lying about scripture, lying about history. He didn't really say anything useful, left things out of context. If you want to give me 2 minutes, I just want to refute him using scripture, right? So
Okay.
he talks about how, like, the Jewish people, they're getting this land back together, they will blah, blah, blah. Isaiah 11, this is the chapter of the Messiah, verse number 12, or 3, it says, he will raise a banner and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble that scattered people of Judah from 4 quarters of the earth, right? And, Judah's enemies will be destroyed. So it's basically just like a lot of the anti-Zionist rabbis, pro-Palestinian rabbis, they will quote these and say, no, this is supposed to happen after the Messiah. You're not supposed to be going and doing it by yourself.
I know, right?
That's number one. Number two, their whole argument about how, like, it's God's promised land and things, but it's conditional, right?
Yeah.
And this, even it's mentioned even by proving Islam in some of the videos.
Hmm.
Genesis chapter number 17, verse number 9, it says, then God said to Abraham, as for you, you must keep my covenant, and you and your descendants after you and generations to come.
Hmm.
This is my covenant with you and your descendants. And if you start from the book of Isaiah, even if you read the Quran, right?
Yeah.
But even if we were to put that aside, like, what happened? They broke the covenant,
Yeah.
right? The covenant is invalid. This promise, this land, all of this is invalid.
Yeah.
So stop using this as some, excuse to do what you're doing. to the Palestinian people.
Well, they're still going
Yeah.
to. They're still going to because they don't care. They just want what they want. Just gonna move on. Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, but yeah, if you're gonna use the Bible and the Jewish people in history, then yeah, like you at least do it right. Is my point, which he hasn't, obviously. You know what I want to see? I want to see Jordan Peterson bring a pro-Palestinian Jewish rabbi and just like ask him the exact same questions. That would be funny.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they'll say like what I've said basically and stuff. But yeah. Anyway, closing statements, if any.
Actually, his lullabies and stuff made me want to sleep.
Yeah, and I actually,
Yeah, his fairy tales and stuff. Like,
yeah,
bro,
Just made me mad. To be honest, the amount of lies just made me mad.
yeah, his cringe was cringe, basically.
Basically,
Yeah.
basically, that's the closing statement. His cringe was cringe.
His cringe. But yeah, guys. Anyway, of course, stay aware of these things and make sure you get your facts straight, of course, and everything before the Zionist, pro-Zionist guy says irony. So screw you, I don't care about you. But yeah, anyway, folks, thank you guys for watching as always, and it's just been the three Muslims with you guys. Take care, stay safe. Wa ma'as-salama wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.